All right. In the interest of time, I think we'll get this started. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here for our Yale MBA for Executives webinar. My name is Liz Lewis, and I serve as an Associate Director of Admissions for the MBA for Executives program. I'm really excited to bring you another webinar in our Ask an EMBA series with a panel of alumni. Over the next 45 minutes or so, our panelists will discuss their experiences as members of the military community here at SOM and in the EMBA program, including the impact of business school education on their careers, creating balance in their busy lives, and what being a leader for business and society means for them. We look forward to hearing their stories and then getting to your questions at the end of the panel. So please feel free to utilize the Q&A at the bottom of your screen at any point to put questions for our panelists there. Now I'm going to pass it over to our panelists to introduce themselves. If you could please introduce yourself, including your name, your class year, your military service, current work, and your location, currently and during the program, if that might have changed. And then in the tradition of our panel of peers or our pop sessions, please tell us one thing that we can't find out about you by Googling, LinkedIn, or social media. Dwayne, would you kick it off?
Would love to. First off, Liz, thanks for having me along my great fellow veterans and EMBA alums. So really thrilled to be here. Dwayne Edwards, class of 2019, served in the Marine Corps. Currently, I build and grow companies. I'm most proud of one company called VMHA, where we help veterans get their accurate mental health benefits. Location-wise, so at the time of the program, I lived in New York. Since then, I moved to the great state of Texas. Ironically, I'm currently back in New York as of yesterday. Thrilled to be here. And then in terms of one thing you would not know from LinkedIn, I'm a huge Jay-Z fan. And so that's something that you wouldn't necessarily see as my tagline on LinkedIn, but if you know me well, then you'd know that. So that's it. Thrilled to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Dwayne. Matt, would you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Liz. I'm Matt Vanlandingham. I'm the class of 2025. I was in the U.S. Navy for 10 years from 2011 to 2021. Naval aviator, flew the MH-60 Sierra, which is a Naval Hawk. It's the same variant as a Black Hawk, just slightly modified. When I was, and currently still am, uh, living in Connecticut, just outside of actually New Haven, a town called Weston. If you know where Norwalk and Westport is, it's just north of that. I currently work for Lockheed Martin Sikorsky, which is again right there in the neighborhood. We're in Stratford, Connecticut, just about 15, 20 minutes from New Haven. We produce the Black Hawk helicopter as a couple other variants as well. And I think now I'm on to what you could not find out about me through an internet search or my LinkedIn profile.
Great.
I always thought that it would be interesting, if you could like live in a fantasy world and go do something different for a week, it would be really cool to go be an SNL writer, you know? And there's not a very high bar, so I feel like I would fit right in. And although I'm not funny, like that would be that would be an awesome opportunity, and I think it'd be just a ton of fun.
Awesome, Matt. I love that. Nicole.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Tyner. I am also class of 2025. I'm active duty Army. I've been in since 2002. I have a special operations background. I'm currently stationed in the DC area. And one thing well, there's a few things you can't find about me on the internet, but one is in high school, I used to be a telemarketer. So if you are in the generation of long distance phone calls, you may have spoken to me on the phone and probably were unhappy with your service.
That's amazing. Thank you, Nicole. And Renee.
Hi everyone, my name's Renee Greene. I'm in the class of 2021. My focus area was asset management. I work in West Palm Beach, but like Dwayne, I'm actually in New York right now. I used to be in New York up until I relocated to Florida. and decided to come to New York when it got really cold. So I bought a new coat last night. So we're doing okay. I served 6 years active duty in the Army. I was enlisted Korean cryptologic linguist. And let's see, and I am a vice president credit trader at Goldman Sachs.
And your pop fact, Renee.
Uh, when I'm not working, I have two main hobbies. One is DJing, and the other is I play travel ice hockey. I'm on three teams. I play up north and I play down south. So sometimes I come to the office in New York. It looks like I have a client meeting, but in reality, I have a hockey game that Saturday. So I just work here on Fridays. So,
I love that so much. Thank you, Renee, and thank you all for your introductions and for being here with us today. So let's dive in to the motivation for you all to do the program. What inspired you to consider an EMBA program? And what drew you specifically to the Yale MBA for executives? How did you know it was the right time to make this transition or investment in yourself? I'm going to actually ask all of you to answer this question. So Nicole, would you kick that off?
Absolutely. So for me, it was timing. Entirely, it was timing. I've attended the program towards the end portion of my career. I've had back-to-back deployments. So I kind of had buy-in from my chain of command of the work that I've already put into this point. Had I tried to do this maybe 10 years prior, it would not have worked out in my career. So I know that my time is precious of what I have when I'm home. So I wanted to invest in a program that I felt was aligned with my future goals. And I knew I was looking to kind of branch out once I do retire. Um, and I wanted the opportunity to broaden my skills.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, that's a really important piece for everyone is making sure that you have the buy-in from all of your stakeholders, I think is one of the most important things to consider as you're looking into the program. Renee, how about you? What was the motivation like for you?
yeah, since I went in the military, I worked in finance for like a year and a half after college, and then went into the military. I missed out on the 6 years that I would have been an analyst on the desk. And while there's a lot of programs like the one at Goldman and other banks and other like tech companies have a lot of big recruiting efforts for veterans, it's a great initiative to get you in the door, but there are a lot of fundamental skills that I think that you would otherwise acquire while you're working in those like entry level roles. So I wanted to take some time to sharpen some like technical skills, in finance. And also like I just find school to be, I had been out of school for just a couple of years. I did a master's in management, just general management, but looking at like the forward in finance, which is continuing to evolve, and like whether it's an MBA or at some point maybe I'll just do like CE type of credits. I think it's important to stay abreast of all of these changes. So a lot of the classes when I look through, the coursework and then did some visits on campus, I realized I'm like, okay, there's a lot that has changed. There's a lot that's going to continue to change, and I wanted to stay on like the cutting edge of that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Dwayne.
Hey, so I left the Marine Corps in 2013, and I was at that point in time, I was a staff intelligence officer in the DC Capital Region area. And I was, at the time, I was looking at full-time programs. My wife was also full-time getting her PhD. So that wasn't the best time for both of us because, we've grown accustomed to having some sort of income, right? And so I went corporate in, you know, every step, I kind of felt like I just wasn't getting the looks that in my mind's eye, I thought I should have been getting, right? I wasn't either getting the promotions or getting the opportunities or the type of jobs I thought I could do. And then I finally said, okay, maybe there's something in me that needs to grow to be ready for these opportunities. And, I revisited the MBA program. And I was grateful that I found the EMBA program at the time, along with other great schools that offer executive MBA programs. And so that was a great fit for me because I was able to still progress my career, be a family person and grow my family while also being able to grow my skill set. But why I chose the EMBA program specifically, Yale versus other programs, is really what spoke to me. What resonated was that there's a moment. It was like 7 o'clock at night, I was putting my firstborn down. He was like maybe 6 months or maybe less than that. And there's a Marine that was in the class of 2018 called me to let me know that I got into the program. And I almost shed a tear. At first, I thought he was joking. I was like, "Oh, what? It's 7 o'clock at night. Why are you calling me to tell me this now?" And I thought it was a prank call. But when I realized that it was actually a real person in the program, I was sincerely, utterly just touched by that. And I actually pulled my application from the other schools because I thought that Yale cared enough about my experience to communicate to me in that way. That's a strong signal about what that means about how they'll care for me in the program and about my growth individually and collectively for our community. So that kind of sealed the deal for me in terms of choosing Yale versus the other school, and did not disappoint.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing, Dwayne. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, so for me, I felt like it was the right time because I got out of the Navy in 2021. I had a background in engineering, both from an undergraduate and then a master's.
While he's adjusting, I'll add one point as well. And I love what Dwayne was saying about his reason, and I forgot to add my other reason. I had gone to grad school already, and the minutia of dealing with like GPAs and different things, it's a different environment. While grades and success and outcomes are important, I thought that the structure of having like a band and having honors and highest honors and whatnot made the competition versus me, and less emphasis on team, like, whoever else is in the class. So like the team aspect to me, in comparison to my other graduate school experiences, was much more like genuine, because it wasn't some kind of like, you have a 3.97, this person's 3.965. Nobody cared. So it was just, do you want to come in here and really learn and get something out of it for you because you came with a reason like we all mentioned, or is, you versus you, which I love that vibe. I was over the other type of thing. So I think that's something like I always forget to mention when people are looking, and I'm like, it depends on where you are in life and everything. But like, I think if you're just there for intellectual curiosity, you'll find similar people there, and then it becomes much more collaborative in the learning process.
That's an excellent point. Thank you so much for touching on that, Renee.
Yeah, great point.
Matt, how are we doing?
I think we're better now. How is
Perfect.
this?
Sounds good.
Thank you and apologies.
Oh,
So, yeah, it seemed like the program was the right fit. And as I continued to explore it, I was really driven to the community where there was such a diversity of knowledge and yet that strong moral compass to be a leader for business and society. And having that strong purpose and fulfillment in the military was what I was looking to carry into the business world. And so that's where I knew that Yale was the right place to be.
thank you so much. So let's dive a bit into your military perspective within the MBA. And Nicole, I'm gonna throw this one over to you to start. So, how did your military background shape the way you approached learning and teamwork in the program? And how did that EMBA program help you translate your military experience into the language of business and management?
So there's a lot of teamwork in the program. So immediately, I mean, that's where the program starts. You get linked up with your learning team for the year. And because of my military background, which I think is something that we kind of all share as a military cohort, was the ability for me to work in teams. It's something that's not new. I know how to lead, and almost more importantly, I also know when to step back. So understanding that balance, I think, really set me up for success, but also I could bring that to my team if they did not have that same type of, background or experience to kind of draw from. And I'd say my military experience, as far as like translating to business, it was really, I didn't realize how much of my background was already business/management centric. I kind of thought it was very different from civilian life, and it's really not. There's a lot that translates to business. So, like, for instance, my ability to analyze problems quickly or to work backwards to plan, for a solution. My time management is one of my strengths, and I think is a military factor. My ability, like, I'm really comfortable with conducting outreach to folks, and then really rallying a team around a shared goal. All military things, but 100% translates to business, not as foreign as I thought. And through the program, now I understand the connection there.
So true. And you've mentioned, and Renee mentioned as well, sort of this teamwork aspect, which is a really big part of the EMBA program. As you mentioned, Nicole, when you come into the program, you're put onto a learning team, which is a smaller subset of your classmates that you work together throughout the first year on basically everything. And everyone in your learning team will have their own strengths. It's going to be a diverse group of your classmates that are in your smaller learning team, and you kind of build off of each other and rely on each other for different things. And so thank you for mentioning that, Nicole. Dwayne, how about you? What was, the military perspective like in the EMBA program? How did you utilize that, and what did it mean for you in the program?
Yeah, no, I think Nicole had a great answer. And, as I think about the EMBA program, I think it did a remarkable job of amplifying the areas where, many of us are already strong from our diverse military backgrounds, while also giving us opportunities to grow in areas where we may need to grow, right? So, and for me, the areas where it amplified were, leadership, comfort with ambiguity, the ability to be able to kind of navigate like different, data points and explore and things of that nature, problem solving. The areas for me where I had to grow, were more so on and I think the team kind of orientation helped with that significantly. The softer side of being able to navigate things and how you share things and how you kind of, leverage each other's kind of thoughts and skill set and create more of a really dynamic and, safe space for innovation and wild and crazy ideas, things of that nature. I had to kind of, pull back a little bit of the Marine-ness in there, just ever so slightly. But it was a great way to be able to amplify again the place that was already strong. The program had an amazing focus on leadership. I think they actually took a whole lot of actual doctrines of things from the military to focus on how executives could conduct themselves and grow as leaders. And that was amazing for me being there and being able to kind of hear that while also simultaneously growing from a lot of amazing corporate leaders that I met in my team.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dwayne. So Matt, let's dig into a bit about the value and impact of this program at Yale SOM and the MBA degree. What did you anticipate taking away from an EMBA program in terms of your career and work? How would you describe the impact that the EMBA and Yale SOM have had, both personally and professionally? How do you define the return on investment? What was that for you?
Yeah, thanks, Liz. So for me, what I anticipated taking away was building out that professional toolkit and being more fluent in business acumen and being able to have those conversations at an executive level across all areas of the business. And the curriculum certainly prepares you well for that. So as I looked at the curriculum when I was looking at different schools, I thought the integrated curriculum at Yale really did a good job of that. And so that's one thing that attracted me to it. And then I knew that I was making, and I had gotten some advice that you can make small, logical little adjustments in your career to get to where you wanted to go. And for me, I was in flight tests, but I wanted to get into program management, strategy development. And so I thought the program was a great bridge to that. And that's exactly what happened to me. So upon graduation, I moved into program management within affordability of the Black Hawk airframe. And really, it's just identifying opportunities, building the business case, and then trying to drive cost, either from a material or a labor perspective. And so the curriculum was huge at helping me do that. And I think the signal that my MBA created helped me get that interview and helped me perform well in the job.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Renee, how about you? What was that value and impact like for you?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question. If I'm like synthesizing what everyone's been saying, and I think Nicole's point on like the leadership aspect being translatable to business, I would argue that military leaders are just significantly better leaders than most civilians are going to run into. And I hate to like generalize either group, but there are a lot of things in addition to like contingency planning and everything you're saying that just doesn't exist in corporate America. And it's kind of shocking. So I would say like, if you're in the military, obviously, to Dwayne's point, we all found maybe different ways to approach conversations or different things to adjust your style. but that doesn't mean that you didn't come with every tool ready to go. And it didn't mean that the way you were approaching it was bad. It's just you might have to adjust. We all had to adjust for corporate America. I don't necessarily maybe agree with that, but we all had to do it. So I'm in the same boat with you, Dwayne. But what I would say is I would never have gone to an MBA program for leadership skills, and most civilians need MBA programs for some things like that. The reason I went to Yale, not to say that there's no room to improve, but I just don't think the ROI is there for a military leader who's been in for a while to just go to an MBA for that. Where you're going with it is to, maybe get new tools to soften, adjust your style, sure. But the actual, for me, the asset management classes, the technical skills I got were top notch. And that's really why I went to Yale. It was really about like who the professors are. I work in a trading floor. CNBC is up on the screen here. I saw, Professor Sonnenfeld on yesterday. People that we have class with that are our professors are on TV. They're making indexes. They're the ones, moving the market, and you're learning from them. So I got skills that, caught me up with banking and different skills that, I think would take, I guess anything can be learned on the side, but I just don't see it happening the same way it happened in that environment. So I'd say like the ROI there, sometimes, well, first off, any assignment that I could use for a work case, I did that. And I tried to get like real world type of assistance with my own job by using assignments in school to translate those things. And then I started, enhancing my analysis. I write on Goldman Sachs's research portal, and my analysis evolved over time and continues to evolve from the skill sets that I got. So maybe it wasn't like initially obvious what the ROI was in terms of something immediate, but I saw myself growing as a professional in the ways that I wanted to. And those are from those technical skills, why I went to Yale in particular. So I would say, a bunch of, we all kind of discuss this, and I think this will come up later, but think about the curriculum, think about the electives you want to take, think about what your desired outcome is. And then if you make that plan before you go, you'll immediately see the art. Like nobody has to convince me of why I went. I know why I went, and I got what I wanted out of it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. That having kind of this clear defined reason for doing this is really going to set you up for success in what you learn. And then you also mentioned kind of this direct applicability, which is another huge part of the program, and how the curriculum in the program is really designed to help you as leaders in your organization currently. All of our students are full-time working professionals. They already have a certain amount of leadership skills that maybe, some are trying to build on more than others, and other skills that others are trying to work on a bit more. But there's always going to be this sort of give and take to what you're learning in the program, what you're bringing back to work, what you're contributing to your classroom and your classmates as well. So thank you for sharing that. Let's dive into a bit, and we've touched on it a little bit, but a bit about the community and culture of SOM and the MBA for Executives program. So we often say that students learn just as much from their classmates as they do from their curriculum and the professors. What did you gain from your classmates and your learning team that we had mentioned? Can you share a memory that captures the culture of the program, either inside or outside the program or the classroom? How would you describe the community to someone considering the program, whether military or non-military? Dwayne, would you like to kick that off?
Sure. No, happy to. One of community culture, I think there's a giving. One of the things that I took away from my experience there, and I have a good friend to this day. His name is, Manoj. We're still pretty close now. But one of the things I think he taught me was just, really having a giving spirit without any expectation of return, right? And so, and when you're early on, and when you're making your strides going up, and you feel like you're fighting for the next thing and the next thing, it can be hard to be able to have the space for that, right? And so, one of the takeaways I got from him, really, from observing and kind of building our friendship, was just his perspective on that. And I also saw other people within the program that did that. But also, I think as a community as a whole, our culture of, really trying to take care of, yes, Yale and making sure our students get the technical skills, but also our greater community of New Haven and also the greater community, the greater business community, and having an impact and thinking about society as a whole. It really helps you to ground yourself where you are, but also recognize the reverberation of your impact, right? And so I think that's one of the big takeaways for me when it comes to community and culture, and has shaped my perspective and how I think about business and supporting others through growth.
Amazing. Thank you. I love hearing, you graduated in 2019, the connections that you still have with your classmates. I talked to graduates from, even previous years and how close they still are with their cohort. Matt, of course, you're a little bit earlier out here, just a recent graduate. So I know that you're still really tight with everyone in your cohort. But what did during the program, that community, that culture look like for you?
For me, it was shocking how collaborative and the breadth of it across the entire university. And I think that's one thing that differentiates Yale is that as an EMBA student, you have full access to everything the university has to offer, and that's extremely powerful. People would often fly in a day early and then go to different conferences or things of that nature, and then come back and tell the rest of the cohort about it. And that was contagious. Having those bold ideas shared and that collaboration was something that I think was just invaluable, and I didn't even realize that was going to be that impactful. There was an entrepreneur in my learning team, and so recently my wife has been looking into setting up a coffee shop as a side business, and we reached out to him on how to set up an LLC, how to do different tax strategies, things that he has experience with. And I would say within our text group still, like there's all sorts of those ideas flying around. So it's just really, really cool to see that and the connection. And to echo what Dwayne said, everybody was willing to help, really unselfish with their time. And I think that's just a testament to the community and the type of people that it draws to it.
Yeah, and I think those connections kind of continue to grow and grow the longer you're part of this community. You find other alumni, whether they're EMBA or just SOM alumni or Yale alumni, who are willing to give of their time, of their experience, and connect with you. Renee, what was that like for you? Anything to add here on your experience?
I think I echo all the other points, and all I will add is that, in echoing what Dwayne said, there were some gracious like helpers in the groups. So I think going back to their grades aren't the number one thing here. Like we're not competing for a 4.0, so the collaborative nature of working the learning teams kind of shines through that. Coupling on that, what I would say is during my cohort, a lot of people were healthcare workers or somebody that like really non-finance. So like maybe they're a business leader, but not doing something like mathematical or technical. The curriculum is really difficult. So this is all nice and nice. It's like really collaborative, but like the work is really hard. So just to be like honest, it's like not an easy program to go to. And why that's important and all that actually ties together is because the type of people and the attitude in the groups, I saw people really putting themselves out there. One person I can think of in particular is a doctor. She's like really accomplished, probably one of the smartest people I've ever met, like just naturally. Doesn't really know it, but just naturally really bright. And she took the lead on some like investment projects because we had been encouraging her. And I was saying like, what you're saying actually is like spot on. Like we kept telling her like, keep going with it. So she ended up, leading some of the stuff, leading a pitch and like doing things that she never would have done. And like when you're in these programs, the whole point is to stretch yourself. And you're not going to stretch yourself if you're not in a safe environment. And that's whether it's in work or like, I was a linguist, like you're not going to learn the language well if you always feel like somebody's going to correct the error you're making. And that was the biggest thing as a Korean instructor when I got out of the Army. Let people just keep talking. Even if the words are wrong, the more they talk, the more fluency will be achieved. It's the same thing in the language of business. If you cut people off and say, you don't know what you're talking about, go back to the ER, they're not going to put themselves out there and try to do a discounted cash flow analysis. But if you say, that kind of makes sense, keep going, and then maybe just guide them, but then keep talking through it, all of a sudden this person, had that aha moment and was like, well, I can do this. So I think like for me, that was probably one of the bigger takeaways was like seeing how when you go to a program that's structured a certain way, but seeing how it comes to fruition, giving people confidence, giving them the ability to speak a new language, that was really special.
Amazing. Thank you so much. This is absolutely a program where you go to stretch yourself, and having this community that will push you there, that you can rely on, that will support you, and that you can trust to do this in front of and with, I think is really important. Nicole, anything to add on the community before I move on to the next question?
Yes. So when I arrived, I was really fortunate. I had an amazing learning team. Like they said, very diverse background. The whole program has diverse backgrounds, and that's so rich and very, very helpful. But the community like far extends beyond that. So when I came into the program, I had just registered a nonprofit. I call it like my life project, and I had no team, no brand, like zero roadmap. And the mission was to support women in special operations who need fertility treatments because they're not covered at all through military insurance, and it's an extremely expensive thing for military families to go through. So turning that mission into something really felt like building a tiny startup from scratch, from the ground up. There's late nights. I've learned a lot of things on the fly, but what I didn't expect was the EMBA community to become a part of that entire journey. So from my classmates to the program team to the career development office, Yale Law School, like it's a huge ecosystem of just amazing folks that want to rally around whatever it is you're doing. So I had classmates with marketing backgrounds who jumped in to help brand like our message. I had people that offered connections, and people that just genuinely wanted to help and get stuff off the ground. And in particular, one of my classmates, Jason, who just really connected with our mission, joined our team recently, and he's our vice president. He's incredibly great with strategy, and we've mapped out like what we need to reach our goal, which is to support all of women in SOF, which is about 2,000 women, through the duration of our program, or what we want to do for our nonprofit. So in just a small amount of time, really it's probably been a year since we've been active. We've gone from nothing but a mission statement, and I had a blank website, to we just received a sponsorship from TD Bank. So that momentum didn't come from me alone, like not even a little bit. That was our entire class. That was our community. I mean, Matt knows our mission well. Like everybody has really been very supportive, and it came from being around a group of people that genuinely wanted to lift each other up. So that's my experience. That's Yale SOM culture in a nutshell. And yeah, it's much bigger than the individual person.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. I think that really is such an impactful story to highlight, that how you all work together. You had this amazing idea that has really come to fruition, and you're doing such wonderful things. And I'm so glad that he's joined you on this project, and that you're moving this forward so emphatically. So thank you for sharing that. So let's turn our attention a little bit to lessons learned during your time in the program and since. So many military values, such as discipline, integrity, strategic thinking, align well with business leadership, as we've mentioned. And Yale's EMBA program is designed to help students strengthen and stretch their leadership capabilities. And even the best leaders sometimes encounter challenges. So how did the program support your leadership development for business and society, either building on or complementing what you learned in the military? Dwayne.
Yeah, it's a really, really great question. Again, I'm going to bring us back to the whole amplify and growth framework I, proposed earlier. I think the program gave me the language I needed to truly understand how the diverse, areas of leadership that I've been kind of trained and honed in how to think about certain things. Great example might be the OODA loop, right? That we use, and many of us within the military community are familiar with this thing called the OODA loop, how you observe, orient, decide, act, etc. And it was remarkable how something like that framework, I believe we actually use in our leadership training, and showed how decisioning and thought process and actioning and sorry about to use violence for action, but a bias for action, I think is the more toned down phrase that we'd say. How that type of mindset is actually remarkably great for just business leadership, right? So I think there's that. And then I think the piece that really pushed my own personal growth along the leadership side was the technical skills around the integrative thinking and being able to understand, okay, here's the problem. Let's dissect that from a legal perspective, operational, sales, et cetera. And I would not be able to do what I'm doing now, where I'm able to be an operator and hop in to support other businesses of various industries and size, but for the skills that I gained from the EMBA program, being able to push my thinking, of being able to kind of amplify what I know while also giving me opportunities to kind of grow and gain some strong technical skills in a variety of perspectives. So I'm super grateful for that. And the program has specifically allowed me to be able to do what I'm doing now. I think a piece that I want to really touch on, though, is that business and society piece, like thinking about society as a stakeholder in the work that we're doing, I think is really unique for our program. And that perspective is one that is really near and dear to me, and I'm sure everyone else on this call, in terms of how we operate and trying to find a way to be able to really create growth through also driving economic value for our stakeholders. So I'm eternally grateful for the program and everything I've learned, and the folks that I've kind of shared that learning journey with.
Thank you so much, Dwayne, for sharing. Nicole, I know you've touched on this a bit, but do you have anything else to add about what that was like for you?
Yes, for me, my entire career has been in the military. So I was looking for exposure to things outside of the military. And I think what I learned in that process is that gave me confidence in my own experiences and my own value, and how that weaves into business. And then touching on what Dwayne mentioned, the whole business and society slogan for SOM, it's not just a slogan. It's really rarely do projected slogans and titles get woven into the culture, and it is you're surrounded by a group of go-getters that are experts in their fields, and yet everyone that's in the program is looking to do more. Nobody came to stay exactly where they're at in life. They're looking to either branch out or build upon. And what I found extremely unique about School of Management and the EMBA program was it's not cutthroat. I've always felt, me personally in life, that there's room for everyone. You don't have to take someone down to build yourself up or to build others up. And that is through and through how the program operates and what attracted me to the program to begin with. We're all here to make something better, to have a positive impact, and we don't view each other as a threat. People are genuinely want to see you succeed, and will go out of their way to do so.
Yeah, thank you so much for I've heard multiple times throughout the panel today our mission of educating leaders for business and society, and it's something that really is ingrained throughout the school, that you can kind of ask anyone around SOM what our mission is, and they can tell you what that is, what that means to them, and how it has shaped their time here and beyond. So thank you for touching so much on that. If anyone has any questions for the panelists, please feel free to put those in the Q&A. And I'm going to now ask you each to share a piece of advice that you would give to anyone considering the program, military or otherwise. A quick piece of advice from each of you to all of our listeners today. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, so the biggest piece of advice that I would have is, when deciding if this is the right program for you, is to have that clear roadmap of what you want to get out of the program. So by looking at the curriculum, talking to other students, doing that due diligence, and making sure that you have a conviction around that, because it will be challenging at times, but the reward is certainly there. You just have to have a clear path for what you expect from it, so you can derive that distinct and maximize that value while you're in the program, because that's really where you're going to get the most out of it.
Amazing. Thank you. Renee.
I agree. I think you need to, take some time to figure out like, and it doesn't have to be the exact answer, but just have an idea of where you're trying to go. Evaluate the curriculum, and then like you need to go and visit with every school. I think it's important to, this might be helpful listening to us, but like if until you go visit, and listen to every school and listen to their info session and then sit on a class, you're never really gonna fully like get the vibe of each program, which are very different. And for me, like I did my due diligence for like a year before I applied and only applied to Yale because, well, one, I'm a gambler. And two, I just decided that if it didn't go there, I was fine with not going to a program because it's too expensive to make just a willy-nilly decision, whether you're using student loans, cash, GI Bill, it doesn't matter. It's a huge financial decision and it's a huge time commitment. So I narrowed it down to the one place that I thought I could see myself and was fine with the fact that if I didn't get in, I wouldn't go anywhere else because this is where I was going to get the most value for me. So I think it's important to take the time to do that. And when you do, like I said, like I may be a gambler, but when I make decisions, I don't look back because I'm very happy with what the decision I made. So.
Well, we're so glad that you joined us, Renee. And that is a really good point too, that, it's important to kind of kick the tires, see what it feels like to be here. This is a great way to kind of hear from some of our community, people who've gone through it and done it. I think visiting campus is a really great way to learn if this program is right for you. We host information sessions on class weekends. All throughout the year, but usually once a month. They're on Saturdays, and it's a great way to meet us in person, meet students, and sit in on a class and really see if that all feels right.
Yeah, that's the day I decided to apply. Like once I sat in it, it was a colloquium weekend, and I was like, yeah, I didn't. You can't raise your hand or whatever during those, but I was like, I got to be here. So, yeah.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Dwayne, piece of advice.
Yeah, I want to amplify and push the perspective of yes, have absolute clarity in terms of what you hope to gain. And I want to push and say, hey, at the same time, you don't know what you don't know. So I put my design hat on for a second. You want to create space for new ways of looking at the world or new ways of thinking and understanding about what you can do. To do that means really trying to leverage all the workshops that the program offers, all the different classes, the different schools. I remember having coffee with a theater director there when I was at the program because I wanted to be able to find ways to really push my thinking to be able to be ready to explore different ways of leveraging my skill set, right? And so I think yes, there's a lot of opportunity to amplify where you are. And there's also a lot of great opportunity to figure out, hey, you know what? I didn't really know that thing really interests me, and I'm actually not half bad at that. Let me go explore that new space, right? And so, for many of us who are trying to figure out other spaces that we can touch on, I think being able to leave yourself a room for that through our program. I think I'm still there right now. I think there are many opportunities for you to be able to find that if you allow yourself space to do that.
This will always be your program, Dwayne.
It will always be my
It
program.
really will. That's part of it.
That's right.
And there are so many opportunities and resources around SOM and around Yale for our students and for our alumni too. Don't forget that that is open to you. So it's just a matter of finding them and seeking them out and finding the time to do it. Nicole.
I think it's so great. I have same advice that many others had is come visit the program. One of the experience days, one of the events. 2 years is a huge commitment. Know what you're getting yourself into, and I don't think there's any better way to understand that unless you go and visit the school. Talk to the admissions team, talk to current students. I mean, they're going to be there and they're willing to talk. That is where I solidified my decision. I was probably at a 60% solution just based off of, Yale's reputation and reading about the program online. It was as soon as I had that, I guess, a weekend in person, I was like, yep, this is what I'm doing. And you're going in eyes wide open with confidence. So definitely make a visit.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much for all of that advice. We have a few questions that have come in, and I know we're about at time here. If you're willing to hang on for another minute, I'd like to get to a couple of these, and make sure to reach out to us too if we don't get to any of your questions today. Nicole, I'm actually going to give this one to you. For the active duty personnel, how did you manage your time and get approval to attend the EMBA program? This is from a caller who is currently active duty.
Okay, so buy-in from your command company, all of that, no matter who you are in the program is needed. How I kind of looked at it is, what am I asking for from my command? So I distilled it down to, I need a Friday every other weekend, except for the 2 weeks that you have up front and the residency periods, which I took leave for. I was selling that I'm only gone every other week for a day. And so I would show up on Thursdays for half a day of work. So they saw my face and it felt less of like an impact. And then I would take off early, get on a plane, and get prepared for class for that class weekend. So it was, I think they got used to it, and it was very minimal from what they saw. What that took away from them is I couldn't deploy. That was the biggest agreement with my command, because we're a big deploying command, is that, hey, for these 2 years, I'm not deploying. I still traveled, but it was manageable. I spoke with my learning team a lot. So for instance, my schedule would change so frequently that it might be at the beginning of our, time off that I could work on assignments, or it might be at the end and maybe I was out of pocket, but I just communicated that. So they understood and I wasn't leaving anybody hanging. But ultimately, Yale's a great school, obviously, and it makes your command look good. So don't forget that and sell it to your command. But I'm happy to help if you have any questions on the side.
Thank you. That's much appreciated, Nicole. Renee, I saw you answering a question about the financial support of the program. I'm sure a lot of people have that question in mind. Would you mind answering that one? What is the financial support, the resources that SOM provides to our military students?
Yeah, if you have 100% eligibility for the post 9/11 GI Bill, then Yale is a Yellow Ribbon Program participant. I forgot to write that. I was just trying to throw some in here in case we didn't get to some people's questions. So yeah, I mean, I think that it's probably one of the best funding type situations you can end up getting. I think it minimized what I had out of pocket. So the Yellow Ribbon Program is huge. I think that's more recent, within 5 years or so. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yellow Ribbon Program participation, which ends up topping up, most of your expenses. So if you have the GI Bill, and now that SOM is a Yellow Ribbon participant, like, it's a great value for veterans.
Yep. And the first step there is, checking with the VA and what you're eligible for. And then we have an amazing financial aid team here, and the admissions team. We can work with you on your specific situation in that. So please do feel free to reach out with questions. I'll also mention that our application fee is waived for all current active duty military and veterans. So that's there as well. I think we have time for one more question. Let's see. So we have some people on the webinar today looking into a round 2 application that's coming up around the corner on February 2nd. Anyone have any advice for applying in the next couple of months? What that was like for you in really the application process, and how you went about that, taking a test and all of those things.
I would just quickly say, because I've gone to grad school several times, like, the application, especially the personal details that you take most for granted, is where people make a lot of errors. So take your time and check it. Like, I checked my not only your resume but my application. I checked it for errors and kept revising it every day for like a month before I submitted it. Like, don't rush to do all this at the last minute. Take your time on it. And I would say the first thing to do is ask for your letters of recommendation, because that can be, you'll have people that are genuinely very excited to do that, but with their time commitments, it's just, you can think of yourself if you were asked to do this. It's a lot, especially if you want to do it really well. And when you ask for your letters of recommendation, just send over your resume and some bullet points, even if the person knows you well, because it helps them craft their narrative, having some tangible things you've done recently, because you know yourself the best. So those things I would do first, like start filling out like the personal information that's easy, where you're from, all that stuff. Make sure it's error free. You just don't want to have a sloppy application, and then ask for letters of recommendation early, like immediately, giving them some kind of background on you, so they have like the updates on where you're at.
Yeah, that's great advice. Anything outside of your control within the application can take a little bit more time. So just kind of keeping on top of that. Dwayne, what do you think?
Yeah, and I'll say in addition to the quantitative factors that impact your application, like scores and those things, I'll say don't be afraid to really tell your story, right? Don't be afraid to lean into what this means for you. Tell the why of why this is important to you, and really help the admissions team understand this moment in your life and where you want to go with this, right? Because there's a qualitative side to the application that is equally, I think. I'm not in the admissions team, but I could tell you based on my undergraduate scores, it certainly wasn't my undergraduate GPA that got me into the EMBA program, right? And so, but there are some qualitative factors to you as a human being, that the admissions team does look at, especially post service, right? That they're really keen on. So I would say lean into that as well, in addition to the things that Renee shared.
Yeah, it's certainly a holistic process, um, where we're going to look at your academic preparedness, both in terms of previous education and this test. So we highly recommend the executive assessment. I think a few of you did take that, if not all of you, for admission to the program, and it's certainly a good indicator of your preparedness to take on the rigor that we were mentioning earlier. So I know we're well over time here. I want to thank you all so much for joining us on this webinar today. Really appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences with those who are considering the program. And thank you to everyone who joined us on this webinar today. I hope that these experiences and hearing from our panelists was helpful as you continue to consider. For all of you, the panelists and those who are listening, who have served, who are currently serving, thank you for your service. Thank you for being here. And any additional questions that you might have, please reach out to emba.admissions@yale.edu, and we are happy to continue the conversation. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Liz. Thank you, everyone.
Amazing.
A
Thank you
lot.
all. Thanks, Liz.